Yes, folks, here we go. Here is the latest addition to the collection here at MoDXtra Games and Collectibles Towers. We've got the NECA Dungeons & Dragons Warduke Ultimate Action Figure. Woo, there he is. Very excited to have this one in the collection. I'm very pleased it's finally arrived. There was a whole drama with the retailer that I ordered it with originally that went back and forth, but in the end, I got that all sorted out and ordered it off someone else who I knew had it in stock. So I'm a little bit behind the curve on this one, but that doesn't matter because I really wanted the figure in my collection. I'm a big sword and sorcery fantasy guy. You don't see that so much on this particular channel, but me and my man Andy over at the MOD, which stands for Ministry of Dice, by the way. I don't know if the action figure and collectible fans knew that, but MOD in MoDXtra is Ministry of Dice, which I suppose says it all. We love tabletop gaming, role-play games, board games, all that kind of stuff. So we're really into the fantasy side of things. We regularly stream Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone fighting fantasy books and such like. I love Dungeons & Dragons as an IP. I'm not so much of a role player, but I'm definitely into stuff like Vox Machina on Amazon Prime and D&D themed, like the Dice Masters that we played. It's got a D&D set, so all that good stuff. I'm just really into it, and I really felt like I needed some sword and sorcery fantasy on the action figure shelf. So I went with NECA, because I had my eye on Mythic Legions and was like, nah, can't stretch to that. That's far too expensive. This is just a bit more in my price range. So let's get this bad boy unboxed, and then once I've unboxed it, I'll take a few days to play, and we'll come back and do some review thoughts for you folks. It's a lovely piece of work here. We've got this fantastic artwork on the front showing the Warduke character in action. This is old school, of course. This is an update, contemporary reissue of the classic Warduke action figure from back in the 80s. We've got a little Velcro down front sleeve piece here that we can pop open, which then gives us a lovely kind of diorama shot of the figure in action. And then, of course, the window here showing off the figure itself and all the included goodies. So lovely packaging there. More shots of the actual figure on the sides here. And on the back, here he is in action with his flaming sword. Who doesn't love a flaming sword? With his knives, some action shots, and then, of course, advertising the Grim Sword Evil Knight that's also available. Little bit of blurb here on Warduke as well. Warduke fights as a remorseless, cold-hearted mercenary who works for coin. The evil swordsman serves Kelek as a cohort and adventuring companion from time to time. He wields a flame-tongued longsword and wears a dread helm. He never removes his helmet to reveal his face to others. This is the way. But the visage beneath it is that of a grim, hideously scarred gladiator. And it gives you a bit of a description here. It includes a longsword with removable flame effect, short sword, dagger, skull, shield, and interchangeable hands. Then we got on the other side, logo, name, character face. More of the same on the top, and then some, legal malarkey and bollocks here at the bottom, although a much smaller collection of legal malarkey and bollocks than you get with the Hasbro lines. Nice that they give the credits there. I like that. Okay, so let's get Warduke open. I've popped the tape at the bottom here. I'm going to go in from here. So pop that out and slide him out. He's in a little kind of cardboard backing card piece here. That's fun. That's nice. I like that. I can see myself doing some stuff with that, maybe with the odd photo here or there. I've had a great deal of mileage out of my Marty McFly Back to the Future backing cards, actually, so I'll add that one to the collection. That'll be a keeper. Then onto the figure itself, which is, tie wrapped in. Right, scissor break, back in a minute. Okay, I've done some snippety snip with the tie wraps, but I tell you, the first thing I noticed while it was in my hand then, getting the scissors out, look, one of his helmet wings is missing. I don't know where that is in there. Oh, hang on. I can see it just there. Right, I wonder if that's supposed to be removable or not. I'll check that out in a second. But then we've got all the accessories and stuff in here. They're kept in by this little kind of covering plastic sheet. So let's pop that out. And we have the flame effect, the swappable hands. That's so we've got swappable hands for the skin-coloured side, and then we've got this armoured hand for the armoured side. And then on over here, got his long sword. Oh, that's lovely. And then his two little smaller daggery swording mini sword, knife, dagger things. Then we've got Warduke himself, which should come quite easy now. There we are. His scabbard's just fallen off. I'll have a look at that in a sec. And then the shield's in the back corner here. Okay. Oh, I see. And there we go. There's the shield. That took some effort, didn't it? And here he is. Here's Warduke in all his glory with his wingless helmet. I'll check that out in a minute. That's the first thing I'm going to be investigating, as I'm sure many of you would too. But there he is with all his accessories and goodies. I'm going to go away and do some posing, have some playtime, see how I feel about the figure, and I'll be back with some review thoughts in a few days. So that's the end of time with current Chris. You'll get future Chris in 3, 2, 1... And here we go, folks. Here is the NECA Dungeons & Dragons Warduke figure in the plastic. It has indeed been a couple of days since I recorded the unboxing section of this video that you have seen. That's right, it's Future Chris, and I'm back now with my review thoughts on the figure. So, if you're new around these parts, just to read you in, a MoDXtra Games and Collectibles review follows a very simple structure I call the 3 A's. The first A, we'll be talking about aesthetics. So let's talk about how he looks, what's the visual impact of the figure, paint applications, sculpt, all that good stuff. Colour coordination, whatever I feel like, really. Then on to the second A, which will be articulation. How does he move? How does he pose? And then finally, the third A will be accessories and added value. Is there any extra goodies chucked in with the figure to enhance our action figure play experience? And with all that said and done, it is my hope that if you're thinking about picking up a Warduke of your own, by the conclusion of all those review points, you'll be able to make your mind up to know whether this is the figure for you. So there we go. Let's not dilly-dally around. Let's get straight into it, and let's talk about Warduke's aesthetic. Okay then, folks, so I've brought Warduke nearer to the camera so that we can get a finer appreciation of all the lovely visual details and elements on this figure that makes up the aesthetic, because boy, is this guy a stunner. And an enormous improvement on the early 80s 3 3/4 inch action figure that inspired this nostalgic design here. He is absolutely gorgeous. There is no two ways about it. Lots of elements here that are really adding to the high aesthetic quality of the Warduke figure. One of the most striking elements that catches your eye, and a big part of the visual identity of the figure, is his big, shiny helmet. Look at this. In the blue colour scheme that then matches the blue chainmail pattern on his left arm and left leg there. The paint applications are awesome. Lovely metallic sheen, just looks really metally, no sign of being plastic at all. There's bits of wear and tear. I don't know if you can see those more silvery bits where the helmet's obviously been knocked around and had some scratches and whatnot to bring it to life, give it a bit of story, a bit of narrative to your figure. The arms and legs then continue that blue armor scheme down the left-hand side here. There's the arm, and then if I raise him slightly, you can see the leg there. And in addition to the quality of the paint application and that lovely blue metallic look that's so striking, look at the sculpting work, like on the helmet wings and the chainmail arm and leg. Look at that. It's tremendous. Very eye-catching. Awesome. And then that continues into the gauntlet here, his metallic gauntlet. Once again, looks really lovely metallic sheen to it. It's got some knocks and scrapes, but intentional knocks and scrapes with a bit of a wash to make it look like it's armor that's been worn and been used. Really awesome. And then all the detail on the glove section of the gauntlet there just looks amazing. The sculpting is top notch. And then his big brassy belt here too. Look at the shine on that. Amazing. Looks really excellent. The sculpt is awesome. You can see all the wear and tear in it as well. But again, intentional wear and tear to give the character some life, some story, some depth. The sculpt on the skull here at the front looks amazing. Look at that. Really fine detailed paint applications in the eyes and in between the mouth where the empty skull sections are, but then the wash across the top of the teeth. I can't gush enough about the quality of the paint applications. Look how neat and tidy this little bit of red cloth is across the top of his brass belt there. And then his loincloth. Look at his big furry, what's that, bear fur? Big furry loincloth, looks amazing. All these different shades of brown in there. The wash across it has really brought it to life and given it some energy. It's outstanding in that respect. The leathery bits of his straps and his sheaths all look suitably leathery. Got some colour as well with the red elements in there, like the jewels in his helmet, the jewel around his neck, the red trimming of this shoulder guard here, all just framing it up, bringing it to life really, really well. I'm just so impressed with the sculpt and the paint applications. I'm sure you're gathering from my tone of voice and how much I'm gushing over it. There's just detail and texture everywhere, like the silver metallic straps around his forearm and his wrist. wrist. The knife sheath here, this is a great example. Look here, so it's got a lovely brown leathery effect in the sheath itself with the black straps all really neatly painted and applied there and sculpted onto it, and then a little bit of decoration as well to bring some lift and some colour to it. Just outstanding. It's all over the figure as well, like his big sword sheath there again. The straps holding his sword sheath to his back are sculpted on, not painted on, but they've then been painted in their own right. We've got the wash across it to give it that leathery look, the little brass point here, the little brass cap on the point, the jewel, got his little red leather knapsack there with the painted buckle on it. Again, super neat and tidy application with a wash over it to give it a leathery look and feel. Obviously, Warduke needs something to cart around his 10 meals, his potions, and a couple of gold pieces as he goes about his adventures and travels. Amazing. The skin tone is nice on the flesh areas there, and you can see the muscular sculpt too. Even got some veins coming down the arms there, and they've even bothered to paint the little nipple that's poking out there, which is a nice fine attention to detail. I have got a little bit of paint application leakage though across the top of his thigh here. Can you see that? Where it's rubbed against the brown fur here and left a bit of brown staining on the top of the thigh, but I don't mind that so much. It kind of just looks like he's got a bit dirty in the midst of the action. And right the way down, look at the boots. Nice leathery look to the boots with the fold-over sections. More ornamental decorations. He's got a couple of jewels there. Another nice shiny metallic armoured piece across the shin on this side with some spikes. All just really swinging and hitting it right out of the park there. The attention to detail and the aesthetic impact of this figure is really, really very outstanding. As well it should be, really, because this is probably priced at the top end of what I would pay for a figure. I got it for 35. But I suppose you'd argue for 35 for this level of detail and this quality of sculpting, you have to ask yourself what Hasbro are doing with some of their Marvel Legends for sure. And then got things like your little metallic chain piece there holding on this extra sheath. Again, this is in a blue colour, but it's got knocks and scrapes, again intentionally sculpted in to give the character some life, some journeys, some damage to really tell a story with. It's just, I can't get over how much I'm loving this figure. While I'm talking about this chain, though, it's not all a bed of roses with this figure. This chain was a pain in the arse, and these rings, the one here at the belt line and the one here at the knife sheath, or is that a knife or like a short sword? The short sword sheath there had bent loose and it kept falling off. I had to get a multi-tool out, a pair of pliers to sort of pinch them in, and it was right fiddly getting this fed back through. You can't believe how long I spent on that. So that's a bit of a pain in the backside, but now I've squeezed it tighter. It seems to be holding on better, but it's a bit floppy and a bit in the way. It's a bit annoying. And he arrived damaged. Look, one of the wings on the side of his helmet has come loose in transit and has popped away and keeps falling off. Now, it's not too much of a problem because, as you can see, where it's fallen off, it's just a clean. It's not snapped. It's just it's fallen out of the joint, the little peg that fits into the side of the helmet that obviously was glued in at some point has come loose, which is a bit of a QC issue, really. That should have been glued in tight enough so that I don't have to do any remedial work with it, but it's not too much of an issue because a little drop of glue and I'll take care of that. I've not done so because I wanted to keep that loose to show in the review, but I will do. I'll just put a little drop of glue and get that back in there. Oh, while I'm zoomed in, check out the eyes. Look at the paint application on those eyes. I love the black, dark helmet. Very true to the original 80s character of Warduke there, with the glowing red eyes beaming out through the shadows there. Again, lovely, neat paint application. Great choice of red. Really vivid and stands out and draws your eye to this exceptionally eye-catching piece of the figure itself. And all of that in combination just really frames the figure up and just sells the visual impact of it. He's extremely eye-catching on the shelf. Everyone who's been in the house over the last couple of days has been like, what is that on the table there on your desk? It just catches people's eye, draws their attention to him. The big shiny helmet being no small part of that eye-catchinginess. Just invented a new word there. But yeah, really exceptional. And he's a big chunky guy as well. He's like 7.5 inches, this guy. And he's got some heft to him too. So he just looks and feels like a big D&D warrior dude. Everything about it. The paint applications, the sculpt, the choice of colours, the sculpting of the musket, everything. I just double thumbs up on this one. Double thumbs up. Very, very happy. As soon as I opened it up, the visual impact of having the figure in hand and playing around with him, I was so pleased with. So I rate this very highly in terms of the aesthetic. I think he is awesome. And as a final little note on aesthetic, I love that they've done this new modern interpretation of that classic early 80s action figure look, but they've not strayed so far away that they've left themselves untrue to that source point, that point of inspiration, which I really like as well. So they've applied all the new modern action figure techniques and methods and contemporized it a little bit, but stayed true to the heart of it. Right, on to the articulation then now. Right then, so as far as articulation goes, in very typical NECA fashion, the figure has got a very sort of statuesque display piece ethos about it with a bit of articulation, and it's much more limited than what some of us Hasbro collectors are used to when it comes to the likes of Marvel Legends and G.I. Joe Classified. However, there is enough articulation to get a bit of life out of the figure and a bit of a story going on, so it's not too bad, but it's possibly, if you're looking for like super fully articulated, then this possibly isn't the guy for you, because it is much more limited than we've seen from some other lines. Starting above the shoulders then, we've got some movement left and right on the head. We can go up a bit as well, although the rear part of the helmet obviously blocks how far you can go there, and you can look all the way down like that, so that's not too bad. In the head area, that's pretty decent. No butterfly joint, but a hinge and swivel in the shoulders that can get you up out there and give you, you know, forward movement all the way around like so. You can probably hear the creaking there. This guy needed a fair bit of heating up out the box. He spent a long time with the hairdryer, did Warduke, and it's still a bit creaky and stiff now, so if you're hearing the creaks, that's what's going on there. But I assure you, I've put some heat on this bad boy to loosen him up a bit, so that's something to be mindful of. The articulation is very rigid out the box. Again, that's pretty typical of NECA, actually. I've come across that before with some of the movie figures that I've picked up. So we've got the T-shape there. Oh, I'm going to leave that bloody wing off for the time being until I finish manhandling it for the articulation section of the video. But yeah, you've got your T-shape there. You can obviously see on this side, it's a little bit restricted by the shoulder pad. We've got swivel there at the top of the bicep and tricep. A single elbow that goes up to there, but then there's also a swivel in the elbow going back and forth like so. And then the hands, they can swivel in the peg joint there, and there's a hinge front and back on the hands. There is a torso joint on the figure here. You can see it just there. It's obscured somewhat by the line of this cloth at the top of the belt here, although if I turn him around, you can sort of see it more prominently there on the back. This does give a little bit of crunch, but it's negligible, and a bit of swivel, but also negligible, because all the leather straps and the shoulder piece and all the stuff that's going on here with his leathery bits restricts the movement quite a bit. So I can't really demonstrate how far that could potentially go, because you're restricted by that movement there. You'll also notice that this one on the shoulder, it keeps falling loose. I keep having to sort of bring that one up across the top of the shoulder there. It keeps falling down here like that, which is a wee bit annoying when I've been posing him up. But yeah, there is swivel in there, but it's limited. I don't know if it's limited because of the amount of movement that's available in the joint, or whether it's just limited because of all this, but either way, it's limited. The top of the legs are on ball joints there on a pin that goes through. In fact, talking about attention to detail, if you take a quick look up his skirt, a bit dark and shadowy in there, but you can see there's been no finish on that underneath the loincloth there, which is a bit of a disappointment. I mean, I know you're not really going to see it, but after so much attention to detail across the rest of the figure, you think there'd be a bit of something to finish that off in there, but there isn't. So the range of motion's all right. You can swivel at the top of the thigh here, but no thigh cut across the top of the thigh. You've got all right forward. Decent back. Not the best in terms of the ballet splits there. Single jointed knee that bends up that far there. It's got this strange kneecap sculpt here as well, which sometimes in some poses looks a little bit strange, looks a little bit uncanny. So I've been very careful to try and keep this leg a bit straighter. Doesn't look so bad on the chainmail side, but on this side, that little curved bit there at the bottom of the kneecap that sticks out looks a bit odd, doesn't it, at times? Yeah, don't know. Anyway, back to the articulation. So you can see that bends, and it's got the swivel in it as well there on the knee joint. There's boot swivel as well. And then the classic hinge and rocker on the feet there. I don't know if you can see that very well because of my hands. There you go, hinge and rocker on the feet too. Which makes him a very good independent stander, might I say. So there you go, there's the articulation. It's all right. It's decent. It's not going to blow your mind in terms of what the range of motion and capability is within the figure, but it's certainly enough to get a half-decent shelf pose out of it, and maybe some half-decent poses for some photography and whatnot. It is limited. It is limited compared to, as I mentioned earlier, what I've become used to and accustomed to through the Hasbro lines that I collect as well. So Marvel Legends and G.I. Joe Classified specifically spring to mind. It's probably more in line with the McFarlane DC Multiverse stuff, or NECA's own stuff. It's very in line with the range of articulation that I've experienced from this manufacturer before. So it's solid. It's, I'd have liked a bit more maybe, but it's obviously a specific kind of book shape that they use there, and it's fine. It's fine. I've got him into some nice poses. We'll look at the accessories in a second, and they certainly bring it to life even more, both aesthetically and in terms of posability. But there's not quite as much going on as I would have liked. I mean, I don't know what they would have done with it. There's so much going on there in terms of the sculpting that any more figure engineering would probably affect the visual quality that they're going for. So I get it. And I'm not necessarily criticising it with regards to articulation, because I do believe that this one is quite clearly a display piece figure. It's not so much of a playtime one as it is about display and the odd bit of photography. So I'm still going to give it a thumbs up, but it's sort of, it's teeter. It's going to be around there. I've got to be fair, because I give them McFarlane Toys a hard time for their range of articulation. I'm going to go around the middle there. Okay, on to accessories now then, folks. And I'm going to kick us off with the weapon selection, and let's begin with his main weapon, his big old long sword. Look at that beautiful piece of work there. Is that in focus? There we go. Beautiful piece of work that. Look at the metallic paint job on the blade, the shape and sculpt contouring the blade really nicely with a little bit of flourish down here by the hilt. Then look at that, the paint applications, the gem there in the middle, the brass sections across there, the brass bit at the bottom with a claw motif on it there holding the orb, and then the leather strap around the handle with, again, a wash on it there to really bring it to life and give it some used real feel, which is wonderful. Really into that. So that sword's an excellent piece of work. That can be stored on the figure. Big old sword sheath here on his back, and it just slides in like so. Then into his smaller arms, we've got this short sword here. Again, we've got the nice contours and well-sculpted blade with the lovely metallic paint applications with some knocks and scratches again. I believe intentional. They've got a kind of positioning and a feel to them that look like they've been clanging against armour and whatnot. More lovely detail in the hilt and the handle too, with the blue paint applications, the little red gem, and the sculpting work there to give it some personality and some individuality. This is Warduke short sword. No mistaking it. This too can be stored on the figure. This one goes in the sheath that's hanging down on the chain and slides in like that. It's a little bit loose. It's a loose sheath, that one. The sword definitely falls out quite a lot when I'm doing stuff with him, so that's something to be mindful of. It's a bit looser. It's not got the that tight clip grip on it there, but that's can be stored on the figure nonetheless. Then we have this curved dagger, and again, I mean, look at it. What more is there to say? How much more can I bang on about the attention to detail in the sculpting here? Look at that blade, beautiful, and they've even, I hope it's intentional, they've even painted a bit of blood on it, a bit of blood staining on the blade. Love it, awesome, excellent. Sculpting here on the handle as well, just looks really lived with and used as a tool of his trade. I really love that. And it's got the nice, again, sculpt and contour and metallic paintwork on the blade. Just, yeah, I mean, look at that, amazing. And this also can be stored on the figure. This one goes in the knife sheath just here at his side. There we go. A bit more of a tighter, more snug fit there. No falling out on this one. Then we've got some swappable hands. We've got the fleshy hand here, a grippy one for the obviously the right hand fleshy side. Then we've got a pointing finger again for the flesh side, the right hand side. And then we've got a clawy one for the gauntlet side. Now I believe, I'm coming to it in a minute, I believe this is the hand for holding the shield. That's my assumption anyway. And this, obviously the point and the claw are for, gesturing with. But I believe this one is for the shield, whereas the hands that come on the figure are the ones that are designed for holding the knives and the swords. One observation with regards to the accessories, with the hands and with the weapons, these grippy areas are super tight. Very, very tight, and definitely required some heat manipulation to loosen them up a bit without leaving, stress marks on the plastic to get particularly the sword and the shield into the hands. They're very, very tight, and I had to. In fact, they've kind of gone rigid again now. There, looking at it, they've sort of bent back into the original positioning. But yeah, super tight there. So you really have to, manipulate and put the effort in to get the sword into the... No, that's a hairdryer job. I can't do that there now. And I really don't want to have to be getting the hairdryer out every time I want to put the sword in his hand. You know what I'm saying? I managed to do it there, but it took quite a bit of effort. So, yeah, these grips are really tight. Warduke's not just offense, though. He's got a bit of defense, too. Look at this guy's shield. Talk about visually striking aesthetic elements. I said one of the accessories was really going to add to the lift and the storytelling experience of playing with this action figure, because look at that. The big skull sculpt is amazing. Look at the hammered-in texture and indentations on the metallic shield there. Looks really awesome, amazing. Lovely wash across it to give it some depth and to really bring those dents and marks out, bring them to life. Looks awesome. Got the black caverns in the eyes and in the nose of the skull motif there painted in, which looks really awesome. That thing, I'm pretty sure this shield was what finally pushed me over the edge to make the pre-order. When I made the pre-order, I was like, yes, I need that shield in my life. Look at it. And I tell you what as well, folks, talking about attention to detail, they've sculpted the back of the shield too. We've got the leather strap here to put around his arm, the handle that he holds onto, and then they've sculpted in the kind of metal work and the rivets and stuff that they would use to create the shield with. So, yeah, very into that, because that's obviously a section of the figure that in some instances you would see. Little QC issue here, though. You see there, my shield handle is loose. Whoever in the factory that day was responsible for gluing has not done a very good job. Talking about the tight grips, one of the things that I found I had to do was really wrestle with and fit this hand onto this handle, and then pop the other hand off and put the arm in through. There's absolutely no way with that hand, or the hand that's on him right now, on the figure, that you'd get the arm through and then the hand to grip onto the metal handle here. Just not a chance. So what I did was I put the hand into the gripping position on the handle. Everybody watch Chris wrestle with this on camera. See how tight these fingers are? Yeah, there you go, like so. I did it like that and fed the arm through the leather strap and popped the new hand in with the shield attached. Oh, the hinge is bending, but there you go, you get the idea. I just found that a much better way of getting the shield onto the figure there. But talk about visually striking elements. That's amazing, isn't it? I'm really into the shield, folks. I think that's awesome. Just so villainous and aggressive. I love it. Great. And then the last accessory, which really is the pièce de résistance on this figure. If the shield hasn't sold yet, then this certainly will. Because, folks, we've got a flame element that you can add to the longsword. Look at that. Lovely sculpt there. We've got the slightly transparent yellow and orange look and feel to it. There's different shades in there to really illustrate the kind of flame effect that's going on. And then what we've got is a channel from the bottom here going up through the center of the flames that you can put the sword into. So that there, you have to be a bit careful with it so it doesn't end up poking through some of the gaps as you're going along. So keep feeding it through the channel. And there we are. I've fitted the flame onto the sword, and you can see we've sort of got these flame licks at the back there that you want sort of to the rear edge of the sword. Awesome. Who does not love a flaming sword? I watched 8 seasons of Game of Thrones to be wildly disappointed at the end, mostly because of flaming swords. Well, and dragons, but the flaming swords too. And there we go, folks. There's a fully tooled up Warduke with all his gear on, including the flaming sword and the shield and everything. What a nefarious, intimidating presence this figure would be. This guy, if you faced him, came across him in the middle of a dungeon crawl and had to have a bit of a barney over some treasure that you've both discovered or whatever. I would not like to be dealing with a guy who's got a massive skull shield, wings out the side of his helmet, spikes everywhere, and a sword that's on fire. So the accessories really do add to both the playtime experience and the visual aesthetic experience with the figure, which means it's a double thumbs up again for accessories. And here we go then, folks. Here is Warduke going round on the turntable in the pose that I've had him on the shelf. I've had to angle my camera really weird to try and give you the feel for what he's looking and feeling like on the shelf there. But I've basically robbed this pose straight off the demonstration photo on the inside cover of that box sleeve on the front there. I've tinkered with it a little bit, but, the sword and shield, particularly the flame effect on the sword, I was really enamoured with those. They were a big part of attracting me to this figure, so I've made them a prominent part of the way I'm displaying him right now. And why wouldn't you? Because they look awesome. The flame effect on the sword and that big, evil, hulking, dented bastard of a shield looks amazing and is a big added pop to the visual element of the figure, which is already popping all over the place. It's the articulation you probably see here. I've managed to get a bit of life in it. It does have a little touch of sort of fluid motion, but I'm not fully convinced of, he's about to take a big old aggressive swing with that sword and strike down an orc or anything. It just feels a bit rigid. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys can see that. In 3 dimensions here with me, I can definitely see that. And then if I angle the camera down a bit, if you can see there, the legs just feel a bit rigid too, like I'm not quite getting that fluid motion of a guy stepping forward about to take the swing. Now, probably with a bit of fiddling I can get there, but I don't know. That's it's going to need a bit of tinkering up on my part, really, to get it to where I want it to be. But that said, I am very happy with this guy, just blown away. I'm really impressed, really happy with the figure. He does look incredible on the shelf. He really stands out. NECA, I've always had an appreciation for their attention to detail when it comes to sculpting and paint applications and accessories and whatnot. So it's all really knocking it out the park in that respect. I've got nothing more to add at this point. I just would say that if you're thinking about picking up a Warduke and, like me, you just want a really outstanding display piece with a bit of a sword and sorcery fantasy flair to it, then yeah, absolutely, this guy is for you, because I've been very pleased with him, very happy with him indeed. Yeah, no more to add than that. So yeah, it's recommends. MoDXtra Games and Collectibles recommends for sure. Okay, folks, well, that's my review of Warduke. Thank you so very much for coming along and watching. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on the figure. How have you found it? Have you picked one up, or have I convinced you to get one for yourselves? Also, a very quick, massive thank you to all the recent subscribers who've joined us here in the MoDXtra Games and Collectibles viewing community. Really appreciate you. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And until next time, I'll see you around these parts sometime soon. All right, take it easy, folks.